guys, it's Beth. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to use this beautiful sugar and sparkle pad. I had pulled it out to make the little Advent or Christmas countdown calendar boxes that I shared in a video a week or so ago. And it's been sitting on my desk, and last year I had used it. I think I picked it up last year at Michael's, 2019, yeah. So I had picked it up last year at Michael's and used it at Christmas time to make this little reversible block, because if you've followed me for a while or if you've watched my room tour, you know that I love pink and I have pink decor in my craft room. So I had made this block for myself. It says all is calm, all is bright on this side, and then you can turn it around after Christmas is over, and I was just using this kind of as a winter scene for some reversible decor. So I did that last year, and since this has been sitting on my desk for a few weeks, now I decided I really wanted to do something else with it. I really wanted to make some more Christmas decor for my room that was pink. So I have come up with a few things that I would like to do. One, I would like to make a banner that I can hang, like kind of like a, not a garland, but like a pennant type banner, fishtail banners that I can hang over the door, the entrance to my craft room, because I have one that's there like kind of all the time, and I would like to replace that with a Christmassy one. So I figured that some of this paper would be good for that. And the other thing I would like to try and do is I have several of these little wooden, well, MDF, whatever you want to call it, signs from Dollar Tree left over from a project I did last year. I had popped off the metal words from the sign and used the metal words on a different project and saved the signs because I thought I could use them for something going forward. So I think I would like to try and use these for another reversible decor piece and make it a sign. So I'll need to kind of clean up the front of this a little bit and get the labels and stuff off, but I would definitely like to try and do that. So this is what I have left of the pad. I have like some border strip pieces, because like I said, most of this that's been used was used to make my Advent calendar boxes or the block that I did. So there's a couple of the 6x6 cut apart sheets, making spirits bright. I don't know if that's big enough. I didn't really love the gold braiding that was on here, but maybe if I could dress it up with something else that might work. We'll see. I like the gold foiling, but I wasn't a big fan of the gold, like, it almost just looks like rope, and I'm sure it's like some kind of meant to be like a braiding or cording. But I have some of the cut apart sheets, and there's various size cut aparts on here. This one is really pretty, and I don't know yet exactly what I'm going to be using on the banner that I want to make or the sign, but I figure this might make some good cut aparts. Like I kind of fussy cut some out of the poinsettias and the Santas and use those on both projects. I was thinking more of the banner, but it might work on both projects. And then like some of these like would make good like banner pieces. This might make a good sign, because I want something that could be like just winter. Like this could be kind of like just the winter side. It's not screaming Christmas. These are cute. Some poinsettia. I love the fur. And here's a big Santa that I might be able to fussy cut out if I want to add it to one of the projects as well. This is pretty. Here's the other 6x6 cut apart page, more fur. So yeah, so I wanted to just kind of show you what was left in the pad before I started really tearing into it and kind of explain what projects I was going to do. And I did also pull out some other stuff from my stash that I thought might work on the projects. I've just got some little pom-pom trim. It's a real small pom-pom trim. This little flowerette kind of thing was in my stash. Some white rickrack. I was trying to go, I know there's a lot of gold in the pad, but I'm more of a silver kind of girl. So I was really hoping to use more silver on the banner, but we'll see. I also did pull out some white snowflakes, and then I found this acrylic Noel, and then this was an ornament that somebody had sent to me in some Happy Mail in the past, and then some snowflake stickers. So I might have to revisit the silver and kind of go through and look for some gold depending on what I end up using on my banner, but I just kind of wanted to show you that. And so I am going to take some time to figure out what papers I want to use and kind of get a game planned, and then we'll come back and kind of work through both projects with you. And at this point, for the rest of the video will probably be a voiceover, so I can speed it up a little bit. But I did at least want to show you like how you can take some of the pattern paper you have and make either some some decorations with just the paper, or using things you can pick up at the Dollar Tree to incorporate into some decor pieces. Just some different ways you can use up your paper. And just a quick note, I do not plan to use up this paper pad at this point since it is already mid-December, but I would like to use it for some decor pieces so I can enjoy them this Christmas. So we'll be back here in just a bit.
Okay, off camera, I created some templates for myself for my banner, and then I also did go ahead and pick out the papers that I wanted to use, and I did some fussing cutting, so I didn't have to do that on camera as much. So for these templates, I just used an existing banner that I had to get the template the size that I wanted for the pattern paper template, and that one is 3 7/8 by 4.5 inches, and then it has the fishtail cut out. And so then I used the template for my pattern paper piece and kind of traced around it like with a margin, and got the size I wanted for my matte piece. The matte layer is 4 3/8 by 5 inches. So you can make these however big you want. If you have a die that cuts them, that's awesome. I have used my silhouette before, but this time I just thought I'd do it freehand and share it with you. So again, off camera to save time, I did go ahead and cut out all the templates, or cut out all the pattern paper pieces and all the matte layers. And here I'm just using some of my art glitter glue to adhere the pattern paper to my white matte piece, and then I'm burnishing it down really good with my bone folder. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to my second project because I realized I wanted to give it some time to dry. So we're kind of bounce back and forth. This is pretty much how I function on a daily basis. I bounce back and forth between things. But I'm going to be using Mod Podge on this one, and so I did want to give it some dry time, and so I thought I'd jump to this one, and then while it was drying I could jump back to the banner and work on that. So it takes me a bit to get that silly little sticker off of the back of the sign, and then I'm sanding it down, and I'm taking it off screen because I'm blowing the dust off, and I didn't want to do that on my desk. And so here I'm just trying to smooth out some of the places where I had pulled up the paper from pulling off that metal word or phrase that was on the front. And so I'm just trying to smooth that out a little bit. So that Making Spirits Bright paper ended up being like the most perfect size for the sign. So I decided to go ahead and use it. And I'm just tracing out the top and the bottom, since it's kind of a jagged or a staggered edge on the top and the bottom. I'm just tracing that out, and then we'll trim it up. And so this window piece, I decided to go ahead and go with that for my winter side. And again, I'm just tracing it out on the paper, and I put it more in the middle because I wanted to make sure I got 2 full windows kind of a little bit centered on my signboard there. So the only tricky part is just trying to see the lines I drew on this one because they kind of blend in with the black detail on the windows. But so on this one I do use my trimmer to trim the long edges, the straight edges, and then just come in with the scissors to do that kind of stair-stepped pattern that's at the top and the bottom. And I also used my trimmer on my banner pieces to make that go a little faster as well. So it's kind of, there's some tedious steps, just like any project, and I did speed this up quite a bit. Most of the video, it's 3 times sped up. There are a couple places where I sped it up a little bit more because, again, it was super tedious. But all in all, like, not a hard project, just takes a little bit of time. So now I'm just finishing trimming out the window pattern. And this is where I struggled to see because my lines were right on a black line. But I finally figured it out. So I'm just super excited to be able to hang these up in my room. And with the winter side, I can at least get a little bit more time with it since we are just a couple weeks away from Christmas at this point. So now I'm just going in with an eraser and just cleaning up the edges, making sure I got all the pencil marks off of my edges. Cleaning up my space. So here I'm pulling out my Mod Podge supplies, and I do use the Mod Podge mat, and you saw my ginormous bottle because we do go through a lot of it. I have a piece of wax paper down to protect my surface, and a foam brush, and then just a tray to hold the Mod Podge that I need for like individual projects. So you do need to apply the Mod Podge to your surface and the backside of your paper, and this is what gives it a like really solid hold. And so for this first side, I decided to try it where I did half, like I, covered half of the signboard and half of my paper with Mod Podge, and then thought I'd come in and do the rest, thinking that this might make it easier to put down, but I realized it didn't. So I'm going to switch that up for the other side. But here, and this is sped up pretty fast just because I am very meticulous about trying to smooth out all of the bubbles. So when you have a large piece like this, you want to make sure you start smoothing from the center out, because then that will push all of the excess Mod Podge or the air out to the edges. And it also helps you make sure that the paper stays in place, as you're smoothing. So here you can see this on the second side. I just decided to go ahead and cover the whole board and the whole piece of paper because it didn't really, I was worried it was going to take me a long time to get it in place, but it really didn't. It went pretty quick. So once I get that lined up on the top and bottom, making sure all of those little stair-stepped areas are lined up, I'm going to start smoothing it out. And again, I'm smoothing from the center out. And I go over this forever, it feels, just because I'm very OCD about my bubbles when I'm Mod Podging. Some people don't care, and that's fine. That's not my personality. I get like so obsessed with making sure it's super flat. But anyway, I use this little rubber scraper, but you can always use a credit card, or what I always recommend is that little scraper that you get with your Pampered Chef stoneware. That works. I think that would work really well. So here I'm just trying to make sure I kind of clean up the edges. I'm not going to like trim off any overhangs. I'm just kind of folding it over on the sides and the tops and bottoms. It just kind of helps cover the bare wood there on the edges of the sign. And I know on the right hand side it looks like the paper's rippled there, but it's really not. It's the pattern in the paper for some reason. So now I really want to dress up that Christmas side, and so I fussy cut out one of the large Santas that was on another one of the 12 by 12 image pages, and I'm just going to add him. There's a perfect spot for him right there on the right hand side. So again, I just added a little Mod Podge to my board and a little Mod Podge to the back of Santa, and I'm just smoothing him down, and he fits just perfect, doesn't he? Looks awesome. And so I also fussy cut out some of the poinsettias in one of the patterns, and so I'm just going to scatter those around as well. And again, putting those down, I just put a little bit of Mod Podge on my board and then some on the back of the flowers. And because these are small, they don't take a lot of pressure, because in fact, that one at the very bottom there, I decided to let it sit for a sec before I come back and try and move it, because I was afraid that it was going to be sliding around. And you totally can't see that because I'm off screen. So sorry. But here we go. but I wanted the Mod Podge to set for a second so that it would kind of hold it in place while I tried to smooth it out. So now on this side, this is going to be my winter side. So I decided to go to some of the cut apart strips, the border strips that are in the pad. And there is one that says Warm Winter Wishes. And so I'm going to use that on this one. I thought about just using the flowers, but I thought, no, I think there was a winter sentiment in there. And so I want to go ahead and use that. It just kind of finishes it off a little bit. So I trimmed that strip down, and then I'm fishtailed the edges. And then I'm using 2 of the poinsettia clusters. I know those are kind of a Christmas thing, but they're still wintry too. So adding a little bit of Mod Podge, and you can see, you know, it's kind of sliding around there. So that's why I sometimes like to let it sit for a hot second before I start smoothing it out. But I did add some Mod Podge to my board and then the back of all my paper pieces here before I applied them. And, you know, this is super easy. Don't be intimidated by, I guess if you wanted to call it decoupage layers. I love adding layers on my Mod Podge projects. Just kind of adds an extra bit of dimension and interest. So once I get those all smoothed down and I'm happy with that, I move my wax paper out of the way, refill my little tray there, and I'm adding the first coat of the Mod Podge to the sign, and this just helps seal it in, and then I can set it aside and dry. And I have decided to make this a 2-part video series just because it's going to take forever. So stay tuned for part 2, and we will finish up the sign and get back to decorating the banner. But thank you guys so much for your time today, and hope you're all having a very crafty day.